Thank you. Thank you, Ellie. And we only have one microphone, so we've agreed that Robbie will use this and I'll just yell. So
Can you tell which is the American in the room? No shades. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Really excited to be here for the second year of the VARC Summit. The first year was incredible. This year is going to be even better. It's really lovely to see all your wonderful faces. So today is all about harnessing social media for animal advocacy. Please admire our lovely pictures. John's photo is real. Mine is AI. It's very flattering for a number of reasons, but we won't go into that. John, over to you. Some fun facts about John Oberg.
yeah, so thank you so much for being here, for having us here. It's very kind of you. Y'all even have me drinking tea, which is weird for an American, with milk, soy milk. So thank you for that. So a little bit about me. I have been vegan since 2009. I got involved with activism basically right away as soon as I went vegan. While I was going to college, I volunteered doing a bunch of different grassroots kind of activism. Something I really loved was leafletting, so I handed out a lot of leaflets. And I did that over the course of a few years, handed out like 400,000 leaflets all over North America. And I loved that grassroots activism. But then in 2013, I discovered the power of social media and how I could reach exponentially more people by focusing my efforts online. And so although I really did love handing out pieces of paper at public places, I found it to be a much better use and more impactful use of my time to focus on social media. And so I ran the social media for a group called Vegan Outreach, and then a group called the Humane League. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, I left to become an independent animal activist. And so now my work is fueled by donations from individuals who believe that my work is worth supporting. In my time doing social media independently, my posts on social media have been seen over 500 million times. And this is, I'm not paying to run ads. This is literally just me basically tweaking my approach over time and pushing out content that I think is really, really important. And so, my real purpose on social media is to raise awareness about the cruel ways in which animals are being abused behind the closed doors of factory farms and slaughterhouses, and then inspiring people to live a more compassionate lifestyle.
Thank you, John. So, some fun facts about me. Some of you might not know, I was born in Africa, in Zimbabwe, on a farm where I ate meat and animal products every day and drank a lot of milk. I lived next door to a dairy farm, and I would come home and drink many pints of dairy, completely unaware of the impact of my food choices. But also what was interesting about sort of my life is I grew up around a grandmother who was obsessed with science fiction. And I was a kid who would always spend hours listening to my granny read me science fiction books like Dune. I don't know if there's any Dune fans in the audience. So, being a little kid and having my grandma read me Dune was the beginning of my journey into using technology and being learning to become obsessed with science fiction and dreaming about a better world. And the world of, if there's any Star Trek fans in the audience, like, this is what I grew up on, a world in the future where people don't eat animals, the economy is completely different, people work and do jobs because they love it, and we live in a peaceful, kinder society. I started working in my career in digital in 1999, back in my home country of Zimbabwe. And in that early time, I knew the power of the internet. I knew that this technology was going to be an incredible tool to bring people together. I had absolutely no idea how much it would be a part of our lives and how ingrained it would be. Now we all go about our daily lives taking for granted all these amazing tools and technologies that empower us as advocates to reach millions of people. I went vegan around 12 years ago. I think this year is my 13th year. I had no idea what a vegan was before I went vegan. It was actually the documentary Earthlings that I watched that kind of opened my mind to the reality of factory farming and how humans have sort of mistreated animals in every aspect of our society. And that shocked me. And at the time I was working in advertising and digital media, as I was saying, and I became so kind of passionate about the subject. I thought, how can I possibly tell as many people as possible about what's going on? People just need to know. And so this is obviously a very whistle-stop tour, but that's when I met my friend Klaus and we launched Plant-Based News together in 2017. And it's now gone on to be one of the largest vegan media platforms in the world, reaching millions of people every month with our content and our articles and our podcasts and YouTube. But what's really key about my story is that I turned what felt like a bit of an addiction to technology into something that gave me a huge sense of purpose. From the age of maybe 19, I was spending time chatting to people all over the world, and I had such a passion for connecting with people. And obviously social media, which was, in my early days in the sort of 2007 when I first started using it, it did feel like it was a bit of a problem for me, having to be on it all the time, constantly checking it. And I know we all struggle with that today. But I kind of said to myself, rather than, taking it out of my life and not using it, it's now a core part of my activism and my advocacy, and of course the work that I do building media platforms. And of course now today in 2025, not 2024, I launched foodfacts.org, which is an impact media platform to fight nutrition misinformation. Because we're all seeing all the negative press and media written about plant-based diets, plant-based meats, vegan pregnancies. Every time we open our phones, there's another horrific headline claiming that the vegan diet is extreme or that it's child abuse or something other horrific. So I'm going to pass over to you, John, to talk about the first hack in our workshop around how can we harness the power of social media to help animals.
Yeah, so what we are going to do is we will be going through about 6 different hacks to maximize your impact on social media. And throughout this, we'll be doing a couple of workshops to try and get your brains working to think about how you guys can maximize your own impact on social media. So the first hack is essentially asking yourself, is the algorithm against you? And the algorithm isn't against you. The algorithm exists, and we have to play by its rules. So long gone are the days of chronological timelines where you just post something on social media and you know that your followers who are on social media are going to see that. We are now entirely dependent on our posts performing well in order for people to see them. So essentially what happens is when you post something, it goes out to a small portion of your audience, and depending on how it does, how it performs with that small portion of your audience, determines whether or not that social media platform is going to push that content out to many other people. And it's really make or break. So you essentially have to have this engagement-driven mindset when you are using social media to help animals. Essentially, what you want to do at all times is to ask yourself, is this post going to get engagement? And you have to remember that you are not your audience, okay? You have to think about how is your audience going to receive this message. It is really, really important to think about every element of your post and if it's going to or if it's not going to elicit engagement. So you have to think about the caption. Is it interesting? If it's boring, people are just going to scroll on by. And if you don't think that people scroll on by, just next time you're on the tube, look at someone just scrolling on social media. It is absolutely wild. It's like this. It is incredible how
You have like 2 seconds, 3 seconds to get someone's attention, right?
Yeah. And so getting people's attention is really, really important. So you really have to think about that with every single element of your post. The emotions and the vibe of the post. Does it make people feel something? Because Maya Angelou has that great quote. It's like people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. You have to make people feel something on social media in order to get them to actually engage and to be impacted by that content. Think about the specific content within that photo or video. Like, is it engaging? Is it interesting? I think something that we all have going for us is that we are posting about animals, right? People care about animals, and also most people don't really know the immense cruelty that these animals are enduring behind the closed doors of factory farms and slaughterhouses, which gives us this really great opportunity to shine a light on this and to get people really thinking. The timing, obviously if there's some massive world event, maybe don't drop your most important post. It's going to get buried. And then even the cropping of the photo or video, is all of the, obviously with Reels, you've got some of the screen covered. Make sure you don't put very important stuff behind the parts that are going to be covered. All of these little elements add up to a lot in terms of whether or not your post is going to get engagement, and if you are really going to understand that the algorithm isn't against you, you just have to play within its rules.
Thank you, John. So now we're going to do a little exercise. So put your hands up if you've ever created a piece of content before on social media.
Should be everybody.
Great, good. Great, so we want...
You're not on social media,
right.
in which case I'm wondering why you're here.
Yeah. So we want you to turn to the person on your left and talk to them about a piece of content you're most proud of that's done really well, and why do you think that it's done well? Like, what is it about that piece of content that you think made it work?
So 2 minutes each person.
Yeah, off you go.
Go.
So what's the time?
Well, 12:40, so 14:40. Oh, 16:40. Are you gonna play the videos? No, it's 14:40.
That's the end, isn't it?
No, it's 16:40.
It's on.
These things off. Better without it. All right, switch people. Other person's turn now. This is 30-second warning. It's team time. Sir, get alone. Yeah, 30-second warning.
Okay, you've got about 30 seconds left. Wrap up your stories. Hope you got some good tips from each other. Okay, that's the end of your 4-minute warm-up. Right, are we ready to move on to the next bit? Thank you, everyone. And finish. I need a glass, like at a wedding. Right, so thank you, everyone. I hope you got some great tips from the person you sit next to and got some great ideas. We're going to move on to a couple of pieces of content that John and I have shared over the years that are very similar, that we feel did well for the same reasons. And these are these two images. Mine's on the left, and it got 1 million views. And I found mine's a piece of found content. So I actually found it on a farmer's page on TikTok, downloaded it and re-uploaded it, and got 1 million views. And John's is one that he shot himself personally. I don't know if
they're very brief.
Yeah, I don't know if we can actually. I don't know if we can actually click on them. No, it's not opening. Oh
yeah, continue external thing.
See if it will play. Yeah. So it's because it's opened it in a separate way.
And be with me forever. When you open me,
it's because it's full screen. That's
all
why.
the power in me moves.
Oh, there we go.
Will you
Okay. So
will you
technology. Thank you.
down?
I was supposed to be the technology guy.
Oh. Anyway, you get the idea. Basically, it was a poor little piglet on a factory farm, shaking with fear. And what I did was I added the definition "terrified" to the video, because what I wanted the person watching this to do is to essentially evoke empathy and get that person to feel what that poor little creature, this sort of childlike being, was feeling in that moment. Absolute terror, whilst a person was probably holding them up to do some kind of horrific, standard practice to this poor creature. And it got so much engagement. I can't actually see if we got a number of comments here, but I remember it having like almost more than 1,000 comments. John, do you want to talk about your one?
Sure. I'll just keep going.
Okay.
So my video is, I actually took this video back in like 2017 when I was living in Los Angeles, and I attended a vigil outside of a slaughterhouse in downtown Los Angeles, which there's a slaughterhouse there, which is just wild, although it's been shut down ever since, which is, yeah, pretty awesome. And so outside of the slaughterhouse, I made eye contact with this pig and filmed them for like 60 seconds straight. It was a surreal experience, and it was very, very emotional. And so this video that I posted is this pig basically staring directly into the camera for, I think the video is only about 20 seconds long. I cut it short to keep it nice and short and sweet on social media. I feel like after 20 seconds, people understood what was going on. So I posted this, and it went really viral. I posted it like just over a year ago, like New Year's Eve going into 2024, and for like 2 months, it was getting constant engagement, and it's been viewed 4.8 million times. And I think that some of the reasons that this post performed really well, for one, it's focusing on one individual animal, but within a system where you can see lots of cruelty happening, but you're really focused on that one animal. This one animal is looking directly at the camera, so it's much easier to empathize with them and to feel what they're feeling. And also, it's short. I didn't, and the caption is emotional.
How will you lay down your armor?
Let's just say we didn't
And be with me.
Perfect.
So, as you can see, the pig looking at me, obviously in distress. And yeah, it performed really, really well. And it's actually, what's interesting is I posted this video probably about 10 to 12 other times on other social media platforms over the last like 7 previous years. And then, it always performed well, but this one went super viral. So I think it's also a good case to be made. This is not a hack that we're going to be covering, but feel free to reuse old content that has performed well.
Thank you, John. Do you want to also just mention the caption as well? Because you said something quite specific in there. You talked about like putting the person putting this, if we can zoom in. person putting themselves in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for one, I named this pig Terry, and so I think that was something that also really got a lot of people to feel more empathy with the pig. I got so many comments talking about Terry, and I'm never eating meat again because of Terry. Things like this, and feel free to after this presentation go to my Instagram. It's like the second pinned post, and you can look at all the comments from people who are really moved by it. And then I did ask for people to kind of put themselves in Terry's shoes to try and see people really feel.
109. What does it say? 165,000 likes, so it got a lot of engagement. And just to talk a bit about engagement and what actually makes a great piece of content from a metrics, from a measurement perspective, engagement are comments, likes, and shares, and those are the things that are actually much more powerful than anything else. Because a view is important, of course, it means a person watched the video, but actually a view is only counted as 3 seconds. So you might have a minute-long video and a person only sees 3 seconds. But if you have 4 million views plus thousands of comments and hundreds of thousands of likes and thousands of shares, it shows that people watched it, they felt something, and they felt compelled to share it and send it on. So when you see that type of activity on your content, it's done well because it's hit all those marks. Moving on to a bit of original content from me. This is something I did for Viva a few years ago. It got 1 million views on YouTube, which is quite difficult to do. Let's see, will it play? Which one? Oh, the presentation view. Let's see if this will play first. Oh, what? You're not a bot. Oh, no. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, well, we'll have to move on from that one. I don't know if anyone's seen it. Basically, it's a really powerful video that looks at extinction. And it's short and it's sweet. Obviously, I'll send the presentation to anyone who wants to look at it. Basically, I created this video, again, similar to what I did before, is with found content. So stock footage, videos from We Animals Media, content that really kind of captured people. It's short, it's only 1.5 minutes long, and it spoke to this issue of extinction in it. And I kind of worked hard to explain without you seeing it, but I worked in this idea of a countdown. We're living in a time where there's 1 million species at risk of extinction, and we are up against the clock. So, emotion and storytelling is a big part of creating great content. And it doesn't have to be sort of high production, high value stuff. We'll talk a bit more in a bit about that, because I think sometimes when we want to create content, there's the feeling like we have to spend a lot of money, a lot of time creating something really high value in the way it looks. But actually, a lot more social content performs well when it's more lo-fi.
Yeah, some of my most successful posts over the years have been lo-fi content, like something filmed with like an iPhone in like 2013. Like it does not have to be really highly produced or highly polished.
But yeah, look it up on YouTube. It's called Are You Ready to Change the World? And next is a piece of content that I made with Midjourney, which is an AI image tool. And this was a concept I had in my mind for many, many years. And I had no idea that I'd have the ability to bring this to life using technology. And in my mind, I had this idea, why do we live in a society where if a person was to rescue a dog from a burning building, they would be seen as a hero. But if a person was to break into a factory farm that was on fire and take a chicken, they would be seen as a criminal. And this is actually the world's first AI image competition that I entered. I think, hundreds of people entered, and I've been shortlisted down to 3 people. But these tools, thank you. These tools and these technologies allow us to be able to take our ideas for campaigning and bring them to life. Obviously, generative AI image tools are somewhat controversial for many reasons, but they do allow us as advocates to take quite difficult concepts that we could bring to life without needing to spend, thousands of pounds of our funding and sort of communicate something effectively. One rule of thumb, though, I do have when it comes to using generative AI image tools as a vegan campaigner is that I would never attempt to mimic reality in a way that would take away from the harsh reality of factory farming. So this is a conceptual image and a conceptual idea that we could have shot with real people, but it's more like an artistic expression. Whereas if we were writing an article or creating a campaign, we have the likes of We Animal Media that shows the real harsh reality of what's going on factory farms. We don't need to mimic it, if that makes sense. this next one is me. So the second bit of our workshop is to talk about authenticity. I touched a bit on it earlier about how when we create content, there's this fear of like being ourselves or trying to sort of mimic other people's personalities. And I'll have to say that before I started creating content and before I had a podcast, I was just worried that people would find me boring. I thought no one's going to listen to me droning on for an hour about veganism. But 9 years later, I did 150 episodes on the Plant-Based News podcast, thousands and thousands of listens, and most events I went to, people connected with me and said, I loved your conversations, I loved your honesty and your and the intimate sort of nature of your conversations. And I think sometimes you might think, oh, who's going to want to listen to what I have to say, or what I'm doing with my activism, or what I'm doing at home with my plant-based food or vegan kind of campaigning. But people do want to hear. People want to hear what you're going through, your struggles, the challenges. As I say here, don't worry too much about overly polishing what you're doing. Just be authentic, turn up, speak your truth to the camera. Even if you just turn the camera on, speak for 30 seconds, ask a big question that's bothering you, and hit publish. And do that every day for 30 days. And you will be amazed at how many people will be attracted to your profile and kind of who probably share the same core values with you about the work that you're doing. Number 3.
So it seems like every 3 months there's a new superhero movie out talking about an origin story of some character you've never heard of before. But it isn't just them that have origin stories. You all in this room have origin stories. And you can use those origin stories to amplify your message of having compassion for animals. And the thing is, if people are connected with you on social media, they probably know you. If they know you, they probably care about you. And therefore, they are going to be interested in what you have to say. There'll always be this small portion of people who don't really care, but the majority of people do have an interest in what you have to say. So use that to your advantage and to the animal's advantage. So share not just the challenges posed by animal agriculture and the extreme cruelty happening behind these closed doors, but also talk about how that has had an impact on you and why you personally care about this issue. Maybe talk about an animal who has really made a significant impact on you. Like maybe talk about your cat who you grew up with, who inspired you to have compassion for animals because you saw animals in a different light. Or talk about the time that you went to your friend's farm and you saw how pigs were being treated and you were really uncomfortable with that, and that led you to become vegan. And maybe you can describe how your appreciation for animals sort of evolved into a strong commitment to animal activism. So everybody in this room has stories that are personal to them that I promise you, your audience and people you're connected with on social media are interested in hearing. So don't be afraid to tell your origin story.
Can I also add to that? Don't be afraid to repeat yourself. As John said, there's going to be many different people who will follow you, but it's important to keep reminding your audience about who you are, what you do, what your focus is, what your passion is. The algorithms on social media are changing all the time. Instagram has just changed again recently, which means that the content is being shown to a lot more people that don't follow you, interestingly, which is an opportunity to introduce yourself again more often. And it might feel repetitive, and you might think, oh, my grid is just full of me repeating who I am. Hi, I'm George, I'm an expert in X, and it's important to get your point across quickly and then get into the video. That's where you can create variety, but don't be afraid to repeat yourself and introduce yourself regularly.
And obviously, I want to mention something about how social media activists okay, sure, I'll use it. How social media activists really reach the general public. There's this misconception that some people have that we're just preaching to the choir, but that's not how social media works. So obviously, if you post something and it gets almost no engagement, then only a very, very small portion of people or small number of people saw it, and they probably already follow you. But if your post starts getting engagement, then, and it's obviously set to public, then a lot of other people on that social media platform see your posts, and that is what we're after. So sometimes we will hear people say, "Oh, your post got a lot of engagement, but it's just vegans seeing that." Robbie and I will look at the statistics of any post of ours that performs well, and always it is like 80, 90, 95, 99% of the people who are seeing that post are non-followers. And why is that important? Because non-followers likely follow the statistics and the demographics of the general population, which means that over 90% of them are eating animals every single day. So obviously, initially, it is mostly your audience who might be heavily vegan are going to see your post, but as your post gets more and more engagement, a significantly higher proportion of those people who are seeing your posts are those non-vegans out there, and those are obviously who we are after to try and reach on social media.
Thank you, John. On to the next exercise, which is to talk about your origin story. So let's get warmed up with the next one. So turn to the person to your right and tell them your origin story. And you have 3 minutes each. Off you go. Okay. Right. Next person, switch over. Next part of the story. Switch to the next person. Perfect. Okay. Yep. Sounds good.
We don't have any workshops left, so
No, we can just go on to the. Yeah. Right, 15 seconds. Let's wrap up our stories, fellow vegans. Right, we're out of time. Thank you, everyone. Hope you are all suitably inspired and energized by each other's stories. I certainly know when I spend too much time on my own in front of my screen, I get very low energy. But when I come to these events and I see all you beautiful people, it fills me with love and compassion and the desire to keep moving forward. So thank you for sharing your stories with each other. Moving on to the next hack, for me, is a really important one. It's about building community. When we work with social media, it's not just about broadcasting content and then just walking away from your phone or the computer. We are here to build community, reciprocity, and friendship. All the work that I do today is because of my community. The people around me that inspire me to keep moving and keep doing no matter the odds is the reason I do the work today. The power of automation, I'll start at the top, is something that's really helped me with my work because when you're only one person, sometimes it can be very overwhelming. We get lots of messages and emails. Work on learning how to use automation. It seems like a sort of strange word if you've never heard about it before, but there are really great tools out there. Now, on the next screen, I'll show you. There's two really important tools I'd love you to write down. One called ManyChat, another one called Make.com. And these are two tools that there's lots of wonderful YouTube videos that explain how to use them. Make.com is a little more complex, so if you do need any tips on it, please do reach out to me. But ManyChat is pretty easy to set up. What it's designed to do is be able to help you to automate many of the processes in your social media that might help you answer lots of questions that you get all the time. Obviously, you do want to maintain some personal connection with your audience, otherwise my previous point would be a bit moot. But tools like ManyChat can help you share your links to your website or links to your donate page if you get questions about that a lot through your social media. People can react to a story. You might like to say, drop a heart and I'll send you a link to my donate page. If you have a popular story on your social media, you don't want to have to be sitting there all day sending that link to hundreds of people. So it's really, really useful. I personally have always spent time engaging with people in the content that I publish. Every piece of content, I will spend 35 minutes to 45 minutes replying to as many comments as I can. Obviously, you have to be careful not to get totally sucked in and spend hours and hours and hours fighting with non-vegan trolls in the comments. Though saying that, I think there was a question from the audience, which I'll probably answer now because it's relevant. Some people said, is it worth engaging with non-vegans in the comments, hateful, aggressive comments? And I would say absolutely yes, but pick your time, pick your battle, because your response isn't just to that one person, it's to the hundreds and sometimes thousands of people who are seeing how you are behaving. And if you write a really interesting, thoughtful, and sometimes, engaging piece of commentary, it could get thousands and thousands of comments that eclipse that hateful comment. And so the Instagram or TikTok or YouTube comment algorithm will put your comment right at the top of all of those comments, because that platform will see what you've created there in that response as highly engaging, and it will want to show it to more people, because that's ultimately what algorithms want to do. They want to connect what you have to say and what you've created to as many people as possible. Obviously, they do have their downsides, and that's what we're here to do, is to fight back against that. So being present in the comments as advocates, pointing people in the right direction. It's never about the troll. It's about who's watching and who's listening. Giving recognition to other people in your community. Sometimes there's this tendency for us to want to work in our little silos and kind of, you do your thing and I'll do mine. But one of the core parts of my philosophy in building plant-based news was to build community, to lift up the voices and shine a light on as many people as possible in this movement, because not everyone has marketing and social media skills, and they need to be able to be given a platform or given a space to be seen and to have their work had a light shine on it. So it's always been a part of the work that I do, and I think it's really important. And collaborate with other people. Instagram is a great collab feature. I have done a lot of collabs over the years. Have been amazing. Done some great ones with you and Protect the Wild, animations that you've created, where I've republished the content or shared it with someone else, and it's been reached by and seen by a lot of people. Combining that with a piece of automation, and you can send someone to a petition, you can send someone to a donate page. The more comments you get on a piece of content, combined with a really good automation, you can see huge traction on your content. Over to you, John.
Also, there's a chance that we will have time for questions at the end. I don't know. I'd say 50% chance. So if you have some, throw them in the app right now. Also, I want to mention that Robbie is sort of like the AI automation guru of the animal rights movement. And so I would say he is number one. So if you have any questions, we're going to be here all weekend. Robbie has all the tools in his mind, so he will give some great recommendations. So hack 5, post a blend of different kinds of posts. And so I am a big proponent of not just sharing the same stuff all the time. One of the reasons is that you're going to bore your audience if you're always just posting the same stuff. Also, some elements of your audience are going to respond differently. So maybe Ashley really responds well when you post pictures of cute animals, but then maybe Steve, he really responds well when you post images of animal cruelty in factory farms. So you want to kind of hit different elements of your audience. So I think it's really important to have different types of posts. So I mean this with both like actual media options. So you can do photos, videos. On Instagram, you do carousels, which is just 2 to 10 or even more photos and videos. Text-only posts you can do on some social media platforms. Links as well. Polls. So I really recommend mixing it up to always keep your audience guessing as to what's coming next. Also, like the emotions of the posts. So sometimes in my posts, I'm joyful and expressing happiness. And wow, do you know that pigs love belly rubs? Do you know that chickens can purr? Things like this that are kind of like joyful or maybe even educational. And then there's, of course, things that are shocking. Like, wow, did you know that baby male chicks are killed on the first day that they're born in these horrific ways? So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of frame your messaging. So I really recommend not just going down the repetitive content rabbit hole. I think you should really try to mix it up to always keep your audience guessing as to what's coming next.
Thank you, John. I kind of touched on this in the beginning, authenticity. One of the biggest things I think that people struggle with on social media is knowing what to post. I don't know where to begin. It's just so much to talk about, and you get choice paralysis. You don't really know what you should talk about. But I would say that it's about starting, it's about building momentum. And even if it's just taking a picture of, what you had for breakfast every day, but then underneath, writing about how you feel, you could use the image as like an anchor point, but then write about how you feel. Do you feel frustrated with the movement? Do you feel excited? Are you worried about, this campaign? You want to share your experiences. Obviously, this is your personal social media. When it comes to your organization or your campaign work, I think it's important to lean into more lo-fi content, because I think I've seen a lot of nonprofits spending huge amounts of money on really high production social media content, and it just doesn't perform well. And I think that's because of what John said earlier. People, when they're consuming social media through the newsfeed, they're flicking through it really, really quickly. And when they see something that looks high production, I think a lot of people assume it's an ad, or it's something cinematic that might be promoting some kind of marketing effort. And so it doesn't trigger their intention to stop and pay attention. There's also the fact that I think 87% of people who watch video content on social media listen with the sound off. So, if you have a piece of content where there's something going on in the beginning of the video and it's not clear what it is, you have that 3, 4, 5 second window to get people's attention. And if you're not there being authentic, so for example, Verity here is very good. When Verity launches her video, she has a great visual hook. She starts by leaning into the camera, or the camera's high up in the kitchen. She's looking up at it and she's waving. There's something that's happening at the beginning of every video where it creates that trigger where it grabs a person's attention, but it's very authentic. It's very genuine. There's no kind of marketing trickery going on. And I think that's a really important part. There's a long list here. I don't want to bore you with too many different points, but the core part of this is that, there's lots of great trends on social media that can be, I don't really like the word hijacked, but like we can hijack them. We can do funny things with them. If something's going on in popular culture, you can take a screenshot of it and think of a funny vegan caption that you could put over it to make it topical. Because my mind's gone blank, but if you can think of things that are going on in the zeitgeist, in the cultural narrative that you could use in your content, we call them memes. Memes have been around for 20 plus years, but they still are some of the most popular forms of content. And so, there's lots of great websites online where you just search trending content Instagram, trending content TikTok, and you'll find websites that recommend up-to-date trends that you can look through the videos, look through the memes, and veganize them, and it can be very successful. Just a couple of tools for content creation that I highly recommend. So Perplexity is my new favorite AI tool. It is a search engine and an AI sort of assistant, and it plugs into multiple AI systems, and you can ask it questions, and you can work with it to create content and do research. If you're not on Hive already, please join. It's a global vegan community of people and advocates who work professionally in the movement, volunteering, job listings, conversations around technology, loads of incredible people in there who will connect with you and share their knowledge, and also just be an ear or a voice if you need support. FreePick, as it suggests, is a free tool, but you can pay for it. But it's got a great AI image creation tool for thumbnails and illustrations and content for your campaigns or articles or backgrounds for social media. And then there's Sora, created by OpenAI. Their recent update this week allows you to create images with text. So that is the prompt: a discarded comic book ad for animal agriculture kills, featuring a butcher holding a knife, chasing a pig. The fine print reads, "Go vegan, save the pigs." And that was generated in 30 seconds. Isn't that mind-blowing? I didn't put much thought into it, but the idea is like, now as advocates, if we have an idea for something, many of us don't have graphic design skills and social media skills. I spent my whole career as a designer and a graphic designer. There are many people who are afraid of this technology. They feel like it's going to destroy jobs and take away our livelihood, and it might happen for some people, but these tools can empower us and shorten the gap between imagination and production. We can now instantly bring our ideas for things. And it doesn't have to be complex stuff. It can be educational stuff for our social media as well. This is a giant burger I created in the street. The prompt is: a rainy day in a European city, people stand around looking at a giant burger in the street. And it's really realistic, right? It looks like a grey day in London or Manchester, right? And then I shared it on Hive, and someone pushed it into Sora and turned it into an ad. And that was done in 30 seconds. And even all the text that they asked for is there. We've made meat too big to ignore. This towering burger isn't real, but the consequences of industrial animal agriculture are. Factory farms confine billions of animals in conditions that would shock most consumers while contributing more to climate change than the entire transport sector combined. So a person made that looks like a magazine ad or a newspaper ad in 30 seconds. And that's us. Just enough time for some questions. John, you want to add anything?
No. Ellie? Thank you. We've got 8 minutes.
I'm also going to project. So that's okay. No, I'll project. So the questions are in Hoover, and it would also be great, even if you don't want to ask questions, to go and look what's in there and like the ones that you want me to ask, because that's how you can use make sure the question you want gets asked.
It's called democracy.
It's called democracy. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead with. Do you have any data or any idea of the kind of, let's say, conversion rate, the massive volumes of views that you have on social media? So what does 5 million views translate to? Vegans or something else?
I mean, Robbie might have a different answer than me. For me, I don't have like that equals X number of animals saved. We have to do some guesswork here. This is basically impossible to measure. But what I know is that many of the vegans who I know and who I've met over the last 15 years have become vegan because of something that they saw, whether that was in a documentary, something in person, or many of them, something they saw on social media. And so I believe that people seeing this content really does lead them to make changes. And on top of this, it isn't just, getting someone to go vegan overnight. It is, most people go vegan because of numerous things that happen to them or they see over a long period of time. And so while, I may post something and Sean may see it, he might not go vegan for another like 15 years, but maybe this was his first exposure to this, and this is one of the things that is going to slowly chip away at the walls that people have between themselves and veganism.
To be a little more, I guess, scientific, I suppose, in the statistics, because I'm the data nerd. If we think about how we convert people into buying things, when a piece of content or an e-commerce platform is running, we look at around a 1% conversion rate. So when people see an ad or they visit your website, 1% of the total traffic will probably buy something or sign up or download something. So that's what I work on, the rough idea. It sounds very low, but like when you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of views on content that has some kind of call to action, you'll be sure that there are a lot of people that are going on to take some kind of action. And even as John said, they might not be going vegan today, but they might be in the supermarket going, you know what, I'm not going to have meat tonight. I'm going to go dairy-free next week and see how I feel, or I saw that article on PBN, or I saw that video on johnoberg.com and .org, sorry. And it's changed my perspective a little bit. And as John said, it's chipped away at my reluctance to want to sort of, not eat meat, is to eat meat. So, yeah.
You have alluded to the algorithm changing all the time. What is the best way to keep our social media knowledge up to date?
That's a good question. There are so many people on Instagram, every platform, that actually teach this stuff every single day. They create content about the algorithm changes. A guy called Brock Johnson on Instagram, please follow him. He every single day creates content about the changes, the features, the things that you should be trying. These are kind of social media experts whose entire world is about social media strategy. And they have lots of free downloads and free content. And these kind of people are on every platform. So just look, if you just search social media expert or social media creator expert, you'll see a lot of stuff. And also in your Instagram or the platforms, they do publish the stuff about how their algorithms work, not to define detail, but they do explain the kinds of what's called signals the algorithms are looking for to push your content. YouTube does it, Instagram does it. So go to help.instagram.com and you'll see, if you search for how to get my content in front of more people, there's a lot of information there.
And spend a little bit of time
Experimenting.
on social media, just looking at what's popular and trending. You don't spend
hours, but sometimes I get in the habit of just pushing out content, not consuming enough, and I can maybe lose track of what's popular. So
Yeah.
just kind of force yourself to spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day or every few days to really focus on what's popular.
Set a timer.
Yeah.
Set a timer, and when that bell goes off, put the phone down, step away from it. Because, when you get in that doom scrolling mode, because when you click on discover on Instagram or on TikTok, that discover feed is like, the algorithm's recommending stuff to you. When you go on my discover feed, it's like cats, vegan food, sci-fi. But if I engage in something completely separate, like, I don't know, trips to Thailand, the algorithm will start, and the suggest feed will start to show me trips to Thailand and all that kind of Thailand content. But if you go into that piece of content, and you'll see the stuff that's higher up the feed, that'll be high engagement content, and look at that content and dissect it. What are the captions like? Are they really long or short? Is there some kind of interesting hook in the beginning of the video? Is there text on the screen? And it's kind of training your eye to understand and see what content drives the most engagement. And that's what will then inform the content that you create.
How do you feel about using meta platforms given their alignment with the Hideous Front project?
Yeah.
Maybe the American
I mean, we are constantly, as humans, engaging with people and platforms and businesses who hold very different values than us, and we have to work within that system. And the truth be told, like, Meta has platforms in which we can make a really, really big difference for animals. And so if we all wanted to truly live our values, we would basically just have to like live in a forest somewhere, and when we die, just let our bodies decompose into the woods. Like, we live in a world where you can't be so black and white. You have to make exceptions in order for the greater good. And I thoroughly believe that social media provides a lot of negative things in the world, but we also have a really, really massive opportunity to make a big impact on animals. If I had boycotted Meta, I would not have posted that video of Terry that has certainly saved thousands upon thousands of pigs from sharing a similar fate.
Thank you, John. And also the phrase "there's no ethical consumption under capitalism" is something that sticks in my head a lot with these types of questions. It's the same with medicine. A lot of medicine that some people have to have that live with chronic conditions are not vegan. The capsules contain gelatin. Veganism is about doing what's possible and practicable, because we don't live in a vegan world. We don't live in this perfectly kind and ethical world, despite us all working towards it. But I think, as John was saying, being present in these on these platforms, where a lot of injustice is going on, our voices, personally, in my opinion, are like a light in the darkness. I know that might sound like a cliche, but I think we have to be there. And it's hard and it's exhausting. And sometimes when you go on social media, you just want to throw your phone in the river. I certainly know I do. But knowing that I can connect with hundreds, if not thousands of people all over the world every day by sharing simple, easy to understand content that might change their mind or perspective, or sharing content that helps others reach more people as well, like Brock on Instagram and John as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Thank you, everybody. And we will be here all weekend, so feel free to stop us and ask us questions. Also, if anybody wants to connect, you can find me on social media. My website is johnoberg.org.
My website now is foodfacts.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you.